I want to talk about pricing models, unit economics, what you should be charging, and what price points to avoid at all costs. So why is this important? Well, pricing is going to be critical to your survival as a business owner, and that's for a few reasons. Okay, now number one reason price is critical is because the price that you charge determines the quality of clients that you'll attract and bring into your company. Okay, and this is going to have either a positive or a negative second order consequence. And if you don't know what this means, every action that you take has a consequence, and actually a series of consequences thereafter, right? Which is really quite interesting to think about. So to kind of paint the picture for you, if you bring in great clients, they're going to then, as a consequence, get great results. And then as another consequence, they're going to probably provide great feedback. And then as another consequence, this is going to create a positive flywheel. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if you bring in shit clients, they're less likely to get any results. You'll struggle to get reviews and testimonials. And there will be no flywheel that's actually getting created. And this will likely lead to you having to provide more support for them. This then costs more money in support staff and creates problems to say the least. So refunds, bad reviews, blah, blah, blah. So pricing is quite weird in this way. So what we find is the higher the price that we charge, the better clients that come in, the less support that they need, the more willing they are to provide positive feedback when they've got the result, of course. And it's weird, like you make more money and you scale further, but things actually get easier. It's super weird. But that's just what happens when you have a high price, essentially. So make sure that you're charging a fair price, one that actually matches the true value that you provide. So let me ask you this. How much money do people make using your product? Or how much does it actually change their life? Now, how much does it change their life, right? Now and in the future, in years to come. Your price should represent this. Okay, so they might only make, let's say, this is a random example, but clients might come in and make £1,000 in month one. But in 5 years, across that time period, they might make £100,000, as a random example. So therefore, you need to price your product based on the total value that they're going to take from that across the years to come. Now, a good way to know if your price is too low is to look at your revenue versus your cash as a percentage. So for example, if you make 100K rev and 50K cash, then your percentage of cash is 50%, which from my experience is about right. Okay. Now, if your cash is too close to your rev, your price is too cheap. That is an indication that your price is too cheap and that you should raise it and offer more payment plans. And also, this actually compounds on itself because payment plans start to collect, as you go through the month. So if you we offer up to a 6-month payment plan. So they all start to come in, and now we make like almost 100K, well, more than 100K every month in payment plans. And that actually covers our ads. So it's quite cool how that works. Now, our cash back when we were charging 4.8K was roughly 72% of revenue. It was between 68 and 72-ish. So what we did is because of that, we raised the price to 5.8K. And so far, cash has actually gone up to about 77% of revenue. So we will raise the price again in a few months up to 6.8K. And we'll continue doing this until cash is around the 55% of revenue mark. That's a good place for it to be. Now, as a caveat, if you are running ads, you have to make sure that you're remaining at least 1.5x cash profitable month on month. Don't go into the red unless you have an absolutely brilliant back end that you know for a fact kicks in later down the road and is going to sell and bring you back a lot of cash to fill the gap. Okay, so just to repeat this, never scale into the red on cash unless you are really sure that you're going to get that cash back in the future quite soon, because it's just going to cause problems. It's going to cause stress. Yes, it's a long-term play, but look, we don't run software businesses. These are cash flow businesses that we run. So we want to make cash as soon as possible and as much of it as possible, right? So that we can do stuff with that in the future, make the product better, invest in assets, grow the team, hire better people, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, track your ROI and make sure that you're above 1.5x cash. So if you spend 10 grand on ads, you should get 15 grand back inside the month, ideally. Don't go below that. Now, another reason that price is critical is because a solid price point allows you to scale further on the front end using paid ads, which will fuel the growth of the entire enterprise, the entire company. So as I've mentioned above, you should always stay above 1.5x front end cash month on month. But one thing that I will say is with a high ticket product that's priced properly, if you have product market fit, you should be seeing 2x, 3x, 4x plus front end cash at low scale. And by low scale, I mean anything below 3K per day on ads, right? So at the moment we spend about 3.4-ish K per day, and we do about 3x cash. So if we spend 100K, we make 300K back in cash, roughly. So it's nice and profitable. And that's partly because of our product market fit. You know, the ads speak to our target customer very well. The funnel speaks to the target customer very well. It gets them on calls, but they get closed at a good rate. It all works. The math all stacks up. But if you have that, you're going to see that. And if you don't see that, that is an indication that something might be slightly wrong. So when I first launched ads, honestly, I was doing something like 23x profitable at $25 per day. Now, yes, this is a very, very low ad spend, a tiny ad spend. But even that kind of ROI screams product market fit. You know, if you have it, you'll see it in your ROI, especially at low scale. And vice versa, if you're not seeing ROI, again, that tells you that something's wrong. And one of the things that's likely wrong is your price is too low. That's one of the most common reasons, basically. Now, I've just written here, seriously, don't be afraid to raise your pricing, because I've never, ever seen this not work. So I've got like 15 friends now with high ticket businesses. I've seen them raise their price. Like in every single case, everybody's raised their price. Every single time, it just results in more profit, better clients, and a higher ROI. I've never seen that fail so far, touch wood, of course. So many people, me included, can be scared to charge what their product is truly worth. And I think this is like a natural fear, you know, because we don't want to charge too much, scare people off, not make sales, all of that stuff. But if people go through your program and they get the result, your program is valuable, right? What you have built is very valuable. Look at people who've scaled their businesses very far. So Dan Henry did like $30 million in sales with a 10K front end product. Sam Ovens did like $32 million in sales with a 2K front end straight into a 6K. The Mickelsons, I last heard from these guys literally like 2 months ago, and they were doing $12 million per month. I shit you not. $12 million per month with a 2K straight into a 10K front end product. Our company, you know, we do about, US dollars, we're tracking for about like $4 million this year, which is not massive, I know, but all we've got is a 7K front end product. Like that whole, 4.5 million that we're going to do this year is purely one front end product. That's it, nothing else. So as you can see, the correlation is around that $7,000 mark. That's the baseline. And if your product is good and it works and people are getting the intended result, then honestly, you should be charging at least 6, right up to around 10K for your total front end, whether it's one product or whether it's a 2-product combo like Sam Ovens or the Mickelson twins, for example. So now let's talk about why you should avoid tiered pricing. This is really important. I've seen people try this, and look, it kind of works. It kind of works a bit, but it is nothing compared to one product at a time. And it will scare buyers off. It will lower your close rate, and it will cause frustration and complexity. Essentially, tiered pricing, it just increases confusion and decreases sales. That's honestly what it does. And I've seen this. And we even used to do this, so I know firsthand that this is the case, that it is true, 100%. It is really not a good idea. If you're going to pull a Sam Ovens or a Mickelson twins and have kind of two front-end products, then just stage them out. Don't sell them both at once, okay? The thing is, when you offer tiered pricing, so for example, you're on a sales call and you say, right, look, you've got this option for 10K and you get this and this and this, or for 4K, you get this and this and this, or if you don't want that, for 2K, you can get this and this and this. Dude, you're just going to confuse the prospect. You're going to set yourself up for a much longer negotiation, which wastes more of your time. And you're likely going to trigger more objections like, oh, well, I'm going to have to think about this because, I don't know about this, and I want this and that, and blah, 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 and the price. Or, yeah, do you know what? I can't decide, so let me just run it by my partner to decide which is best. You're literally setting yourself up for objections, man. Do not do that. With one offer, it's simple. You get this and this and this. The price is this. Be in or out. No confusion. No BS. Know the product, we know the price. Less objections, a shorter sales call, the decision is much easier, and everything is simplified. So if you are currently using tiered pricing, just stop. And instead, spread out your products. Or just offer one. Like Dan Henry, like me, like blah, blah, blah. Alex Becker, whatever. Now, here's two examples of how this can be done. So number one, Sam Ovens. Now, Sam sells his consulting accelerator for 2K via an automated webinar funnel. And then in the program itself, he makes it clear that it's done for you only. And to really scale and do well, you're going to need to buy his higher level program, which is a further 6K. And then that completes his front end. Now, note how it's one decision at a time, spread out across a journey. So it's like, all you can buy on the front end is this, nothing else, no confusion, one thing. And then inside the course, he constantly tells you that basically you need the next program to really do well and scale. Another example of this is the Mickelson twins. So they sell their front end product, so to speak, for 2K, again, via a webinar. And then as soon as someone buys, they're instantly prompted to book in what they call an onboarding seminar. And then on the onboarding seminar, alongside batches of other new buyers, so they usually use 30 people at a time, they're literally upsold straight into the higher level program, which is an extra 10K. And how they do this, they basically show them results, get them hyped up, get them excited, and say, look, to get the best results, similar to Sam Ovens, they say to them, look, to get the best results, you're going to need this program as well. So buy it. And they literally get people to book sales calls. Again, another sales call. Obviously, it's not called a sales call. It's like a upgrade call or whatever. And then they sell people straight into the 10K. And notice how it's one decision at a time spread out across the journey. So again, if you're currently offering tiered pricing on a sales call, just do one of these instead. So either stop and just spread it out into one decision at a time, like above. Or just do what we do and just offer an offer structure on the call and just ladder down through the options. So when we get to the price, it's like, right, you get this and this and this. It's the platinum program and it's 5.8K. Stop. That's it. One thing, one price. And then if they need a payment plan or they ask for one, then we'll go to a payment plan next. Cool, we can do a payment plan. That's it. Nothing else. Now, if they push back, then the next ladder down, we'll offer them a 1K discount on the spot if they give us a testimonial in 6 months' time. If they can't do that, then we'll reveal the next step and say, look, okay, well, look, let's do half price. You pay the rest back out of your profits when you're ready. No contract. Just do that whenever you're ready. Not going to hold you to it. Blah, blah, blah. And then final step, if they can't do that, we just basically restructure the program for them and just give them what they need. So instead of all 4 strategies, we'll give you 2 instead. Instead of all the coaching, just have just the group coaching or whatever, and just kind of make it work for them and just reveal it one step at a time. And this is going to make you a lot more money, get you a lot more clients, and simplify your operations as well. Now, next, what I want to talk to you about is I just want to go deeper on tiered pricing, along with when and when not to use it. Okay, so to begin with, before we even get into the video, I do encourage tiered pricing, but it's not right for every offer. Okay, so if you're teaching drop shipping, you don't need tiers. You're probably just going to have one front end, maybe a back end, like a mastermind or one-to-one upsell. If you're teaching business growth, for example, well, you probably are going to have tiers because you can have a program, you can have done for you, for example. So it just makes sense to have different options there. If you're teaching health, you know, again, it kind of makes sense to have, well, there's either a program with the knowledge or one-to-one coaching on accountability. So it's very simple. Do you want the accountability or do you feel like you don't need it? Very simple. So it makes sense to have that tier there. If you're teaching knitting, you're not going to have two tiers. You know, it just doesn't make sense. You don't need it. The customer doesn't need it. Okay. And if you want to have a great product and service, just always think of the customer, right? So let's get into what I've written down here. When should you use tiered pricing? One place is when you have extremely clear differences between program deliverables. So for example, let's take my current tiers. So one tier is simply the program and group coaching. Very simple. Another is the program with anytime one-to-one and my personal WhatsApp number at a much higher price, right? Another tier is full-blown, done-for-you work on my part, everything done by me, and I essentially become your business partner for 3 months, right? So the differences are very significant, and people instantly know what's best for them based on their budget, the time availability, and how much of my help they want and need. The thing not to do is have just really muddled up tiers where the deliverables are not significantly and noticeably different. So if I had to make a suggestion to most of you, I would say just keep it simple. Do one high-level program with a high-ticket price. That means all you need to do is just sell 2 or 3 people a month into that, and you're going to make over 10K a month in earnings. And it just makes your life so much easier, so much simpler, and it just keeps things nice and simple for your prospects too when you're on a sales call, like I discussed in the previous video, right? So that's one. Number 2, time to have tiers is when you have very wide pricing tiers. So for example, if you sell a 4K package and a 12K package, that's very wide. That's a very big gap between them. So there's no thinking about it. It's obvious which one you should go for when you're a customer. If you're very serious and you have money, you go 12K. If you have a limited budget and you're just getting started, you go 4K. Very, very simple, very straightforward, very obvious, which is best. So that removes the confusion because people just instantly know. The thing not to do is have like a 1K tier, a 2K tier, a 3K tier, that kind of thing, and having a very small gap between them because this just makes it so hard to differentiate between them. And that will definitely confuse the prospect, right? Now, you're still going to make sales, but it's really going to confuse the prospect. And this was what I was doing wrong when I started my e-learning company. And even into the 2nd and 3rd year, we had like a bronze for $495, a silver for $795, a gold for $995, and a platinum for $1.5K. Too close together, not significantly that different. It's confusing, and people just either buy the cheap one or the most expensive, generally. You don't even need the middle ones. So that was one mistake that I made. And when we moved to just the top one and nothing else, we significantly scaled further. Significantly further. Okay, by just simplifying it. That is why for most people, I suggest just one program, one tier, or just the two, very wide apart. So I've got a client moving through this program right now. I think he's doing 3 and 12, right? Maybe 4 and 12. And he was the one that actually inspired me to make this video to add even more value and help you guys further. So that's number 2. And thirdly, consider B2B and B2C and how different the prospect is. So do you sell business to business or do you sell business to consumer? Everyday consumers are usually not good at making decisions, typically. Okay, and I say this with respect, but that is usually why they aren't rich or successful, because they're not good at making decisions and gathering knowledge and acting on knowledge. Okay, so for you, simplifying things will help you make more sales, whether that's through a written sales page or a sales call. The simpler, the better for everyday people. Now, if you do have different tiers, again, make sure that the differences are blindingly obvious and the price is wide, just to make it as easy as possible for them to make the best decision for them. Business owners, however, are typically, not always, but typically much smarter and much better at making decisions. That's why they're rich. That's why they own big businesses and do very well in life, right? They know that they're on a sales call when they're on a sales call, and they know that they are there to make a buying decision. You're still going to get objections, but you're going to get a lot less if you're selling to business people rather than everyday people. Now, I still recommend making sure that the differences between your tiers are blindingly obvious and that the price is wide, but you can offer more tiers here if you want to, and if it's relevant. Okay, now to conclude, most people who go through this program who don't yet have an offer should start with just one high-ticket, high-level program. Keep it simple, price it based on value. So if you help, let's say, busy professionals with their diet and their sleep and their exercise, this is extremely valuable to the right person. It is well worth 4K, 6K, 8K, depending on the avatar. For example, are the people that you sell that to millionaire business owners, or are they small business owners or new entrepreneurs with little cash flow? So I'd consider this a B2B offer because you're selling to business owners. Price it based on the value and the avatar. Or if you help people to start and scale an e-com brand, it's also very valuable to the right person. And it's worth, I would say, 3K, 5K area, right? Depending on the avatar, depending on the program. Is it group coaching or one-to-one? Blah, blah, blah. Now, it's likely here that you're selling to everyday people, so B2C. And again, you're going to price based on long-term value and the avatar. So if you're speaking to everyday people, it's going to be hard to charge 12K or 10K or 8K. You can, and you will still make sales, but you'll make a lot less than if you were charging, let's say, 3K or 4K or maybe 5K, because it just fits the avatar. You know, because you're probably selling to, you know, a man, he's married, he's got 1 or 2 kids, he's got maybe 15, 25, 35K in the bank, everyday job, you know, 30, 40, 50 years old. So understanding your avatar is first. Now, next, what I want to talk to you about is, so what price or prices should you actually charge? Now, this is going to be the 3rd video of this section. And I want to use this video to just condense and really, again, just bookend this pricing section, condense what we've talked about, give you a few more kind of real tangible examples as well. And when you've watched this video, you should now be able to decide what price are you going to charge, how are you going to actually charge it, what does it make sense to charge, and it's all going to click when you've watched this video. Okay, and if you do have any other questions, we can go deeper on one of our coaching sessions together. So first of all, you must know this. Pricing is all completely made up. No one knows how to price anything, and there is no right or wrong. Okay, whether you own a car dealership, a 5-star hotel, you know, an e-com brand, a software, a high-end restaurant, you're a coach, you're a consultant, all pricing is completely made up based on a few things. Competitors, supply and demand, the country you're selling and the currency, and the avatar that you sell to. Okay. Now, with those said, where should you start? Well, you start with value. You always start with value. Here's the equation that I always start with whenever anyone asks me, Will, what should I charge? I always say to them, or maybe I've said this to you already, on average, what results will a client achieve after 12 months of your help, your program, or your coaching service? Quantify it monetarily, and then charge them between 5 and 15% of that figure. That is a great place to start. And if you start there, it's a great thing to think about. And it really does help to bring things together. Because again, all we do, we solve valuable problems for people. We exchange our value for their money. And that is a business. Now, as an example, let's say that you teach trading. Okay, and let's say that your average client will make $50,000 by the end of 12 months of working with you or learning from you. Now, before we talk about pricing and we go deeper, let me just ask you a question. What would you pay to make on average $50,000 in the next 12 months? Would you pay $1,000 to make $50,000 back? Well, I certainly would. That's a massive ROI, isn't it? What about $5,000? Again, I would 100% $5,000 if the average person made 50 back. Absolutely. That is still a fantastic outcome, isn't it, to turn 5 into 50? What about $10,000? If you really trusted the person that you'd be learning from, if you love their work, you love their brand, you follow them on YouTube, you've listened to their podcasts, you've spoke to them on Instagram, you've had a call with their team, and you really like and trust this person, you think that they're awesome, would you pay 10 to make on average 50 back? I think that you would still pay that amount because I certainly would myself, right? It's almost a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. So again, how much would you pay to learn how to make on average 50,000 a year? 1K, 5K, 10K, 20K. 20K is still fair, isn't it? As a second example, let's say that you teach people to make audiobooks. Put them on Audible, and on average, your clients make 3K a month, so 36K by the end of a year. Same question again. What would you pay to make on average 36K? Well, I think 1K is very fair. I think 5K is fair. Honestly, I think 10, 15K is fair because it's 36 per year. So if you do that for 10 years, you're probably going to make way more than that anyway. But if you do that for 5, 10 years, you're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then you can invest in real estate, you can invest in a nice watch, you can go on holiday, buy a car, on and on and on and on. And there's so much other value, not just the money, but the other value that comes from that as well. And you've got to keep that in mind, guys. Even when you've worked out what is your average that people are going to make after 12 months, you've even got to think, well, let's say you've got a figure in mind. Well, what about beyond that? What can they even do with that money? They can grow it. They can invest it. They can use it to better their life. They can use it to better their health, their relationships, on and on and on and on. You've got to consider these things. And you're also going to use these things as selling points in your ads, in your VSL, maybe even in your sales script, on the sales calls, on and on and on, and your organic content and more. Okay. So can you see how, when you look forwards at what you will help clients to achieve, and you use that model, that 5 to 15% model as a guide, it becomes easier, doesn't it, to price based on value? And that's how we should all be charging, based on the value, the result that we get for our clients, right? So that's the first mental model. That's the first framework that I use to decide on price and help others decide on price as well. So if you can make people 50K on average in a year, 10% of that is 5. That's very fair. Very fair. Okay, you may want to go above that. You may want to go below that. But I see that as the fair zone. If you make them 50, you can more than charge 5. It's very, very fair. Okay. But what if your offer or service is not money-based? Well, what if it's health? What if it's addiction? What if it's relationships? Don't worry. I can tell you it is still money-based. Okay, because think of it this way. Let's say you're addicted to alcohol. You spend $500 a month on the stuff for the whiskey, the Coca-Cola to mix it with, the ice cubes, the limes, lemons. That's $6,000 a year. Not only that, Maybe it's messing up your health, your relationships, your business, your marriage, your friendships, communication, blah, 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 on and on. Those are extreme severe things, aren't they? If you can solve them through your stop drinking alcohol program, that outcome, that value is huge, isn't it? Because you're not selling stop drinking alcohol. You're selling a better life, a healthier life, a better business, a better partner, a better relationship with your kids, and on and on and on and on and on. Maybe you live longer, right? You can spend more time with your loved ones. You can spend more time building great businesses. You can spend more time traveling, on and on and on. So again, you're not selling stopping drinking alcohol. You're selling family, friends, health, better business, more money, longer life, and on and on. How valuable is that? How valuable is that, guys? It's immensely valuable, isn't it? Because someone addicted to alcohol, if you could truly deliver those amazing outcomes, what's that worth? And deeper still, what is it worth to the right person? Because we're going to talk about that next. But first, I want you to answer the question. So what is that worth? That's the question. So some of you will say 1,000 or 2,000. Some of you will say 3,000 or 4,000. Some of you will say 5,000 or 6,000 or higher. And that is my point, right? The price is completely subjective and made up based on your circumstances, your level of wealth, your level of relatability to the pain, and on and on. Maybe you've been addicted to alcohol and you've conquered it, and you will really have a lot of relatability to that. Maybe you've never drank in your life and you've got no relatability to that, right? In a nutshell, every human thinks a different price is the correct one. That's the point that I want to make here, guys. Now, I actually know someone who sells a program like that for $8,500 US. To some people, that is ludicrous. To others, it's a steal. To an everyday person who works in a supermarket and earns $2,000 a month, that is almost 5 months of work for them. They ain't going to pay that. That's unthinkable. But to a high-level executive whose career rests on performance and health and relationships and on, it's nothing, is it? To solve all of those problems and get rid of that terrible addiction. So can you see how pricing is very deep? And the good news is you can charge way, 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 way more than you probably even believe, because you will present it in such a great way. You'll sell it to the right group of people who see and who need the value that you have to offer. Right, so I just want to say that one more time. For most people, you can charge way, way, way more than you probably currently believe. And you will do that because you're going to align your offer. You're going to present your offer in a great way and to the right people. So let's talk about that. Who is the right person? Well, let's come back to the above example. If you were trying to sell that program to everyday people, we're not going to make many, if any, sales. If, on the other hand, you're selling it to executives, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and the likes, whose incomes are $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a month, well, that's a drop in the ocean, isn't it? It's an afterthought. They're going to pay it no problem. I spent $22,000 literally yesterday for somebody to help me with my book funnel, help me with the copywriting, help me with the upsells, blah, 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 blah. And to some of you, you're probably thinking, oh my God, $22,000 bloody dollars for someone to, help you with that. And other people that come into this program that are making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month or beyond will think, well, yeah, it makes complete sense. It's a very important thing. It's going to make you way more back. 22 is fair. It's completely fair, right? So it's all in the eye of the beholder. So just by positioning the offer in the right place rather than the wrong place means sales just simply become easier instantly. Now, I am not saying charge ridiculously high prices and sell to rich people, right? That's not what I'm saying. That all depends on the niche, the offer, the deliverables, and on, your background, your accolades. What I'm saying is this: price based on the outcome that it's truly worth long term to the people you'll be helping and adding value for. And again, like I mentioned earlier, guys, think 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. What impact will this have for them, for their life, for their family, for their friends, for their wealth, everything, right? Second to that, price based on what you are worth. So how hard have you worked to learn and to master your skill, your talent, your area of expertise? How many days, weeks, months, years? How many hours? You know, think of the training that you've done and paid for, the time that you've put in, the books that you've read, the videos you've watched, all the time and effort. So I've been in the online education world for 7 years. I've made over $20 million, and I've spent now over 300K on my education. On masterminds, courses, mentors. I've earned my stripes, and I charge like I've earned my stripes, because I have. Thirdly, price based on the amount of time that is required. Sorry, your time. Your time that's required. Okay. Now, if you're selling just a training course alone, no support, no coaching, nothing, the price is going to be lower, because it's just, it's a program alone. It doesn't rest on your time. So it's much more scalable, less of your time. You know, you can sell more and charge less if that's the way you want to go. For example, if you're selling a training course with group coaching, one-to-one, a community, maybe it's lifetime as well, obviously the price is going to be a hell of a lot higher, and vice versa. Okay, so what are the typical prices and the typical models of pricing in the coaching and consulting industry, in this whole info space, online education space? Well, this is what I usually see. So an online course alone, again, no coaching, no community, depending on the value and the outcome and the length and the depth of that program, you're going to charge anywhere from $495 to about $1,500, maybe $2,000, right, on the high end. And I'm talking a course and nothing else. You can't email support. There's no coaching, on and on. There's no events. There's no one-to-one. It's a program on its own. Again, depending on the value and the outcome and how big and bad and amazing it is, you'll price around that. Okay. Secondly, an online course with, maybe it's got group coaching, maybe it's got one-to-one coaching, but again, no community. Again, depending on the value and the outcome and the length and depth, it's going to be between $995 and about $10,000. All right, so typical programs with group coaching, again, depending on the niche and the industry, you're talking from usually about $3,000 to $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000 range. And to give you an example, the program in my last company, it was $8,500 training program, and it was massive. It was super, super deep, very, very long. There was even mini courses in there as well. And they got 3 one-to-one calls with a coach and group coaching for life. Again, $8,500 for that whole combo. So at the top end of this, right? There may even be a recurring element as well. Okay, so I'm seeing this a lot at the moment. This can work really well. $995 to get in, $95 a month to stay in. For example, this can work really well for niches, for industries, for audiences that maybe don't have 10 grand, but they could spend one and then $95 a month or $195 a month, for example, to stay in as you help them. They build, they grow, they learn, they get bigger and better, they make progress, and they're more than happy to keep paying that. And if you stop paying that, they just lose access. Okay. Thirdly, an online course with both, again, group coaching and one-to-one and a community and lifetime access, on and on. Again, depending on the value and the outcome and how big and bad and amazing it is, that's going to be more like, kind of similar to what I just said, 2K up to about 15, usually, if not a little bit higher, if it includes one-to-one with the founder, because to the right person, that is very, 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 very valuable, very valuable. And fourthly, a mastermind event, either in person, online, or a workshop or a seminar, because I've mentioned that below as well. So those are typically the 4 types of things, and how they're actually, when it comes to these are typically priced at low end anywhere from, I would say, 2K per person for a 1-day workshop up to, honestly, I mean, God, when it comes to masterminds, it's 65,000 for annual mastermind memberships, regular in-person events, and even, you can even get, I mean, I'll give you guys an example. Cole Gordon, $65,000 per year, an in-person 2-day event once every quarter. So you get 4 of those in a year, and even training program access and a community too. So again, you're starting to roll these things together, and you're adding the in-person element as well. And that is where you can really start to charge. Again, you can do $2,000 per person for a 1-day workshop, 1 day in person, or right up to $65K for an annual membership. And you can payment plan that as well, by the way. So let's talk about the models that you can use. So again, you've got a one-off fee. And this is by far the most often used, $5K for lifetime access, or 6 months or 3 months, usually with a program and some kind of coaching. Okay. Second to that, a recurring monthly subscription. So this can be, I'll give you a good example what I do, right? So I charge just a monthly sub. That's it. Depending on what program you're in, it's just a monthly fee, cancel anytime, and that's for consulting with me and my program without a community, right? So that's another great model that can work very well. Thirdly, a one-off fee plus recurring. So like we just talked about up here, maybe $995 and $95 a month, maybe $2,000 and $195 a month. Okay. 2 examples for you here. So Taylor Welch, if you don't know who he is, let's just call him a very high-level business executive, has a great mastermind, a great program. It's $30,000 to get in and $2,000 a month to stay in. I'm actually going to add another example here as well. So Alan Sultanich. So I am actually in Alan's mastermind right now, and it was $10,000 to get in and $1,000 a month to stay in. And Matt Wilson, another great example. This guy has a fantastic agency, helps people with book funnels, and has a mastermind and on and on. This guy is £16,000 for 3 months, and then £3,000 a month to stay in after that, basically for access to him, an hour a week with him, access to his agency so they can build things for you, write your copy for you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so those are 3 great examples there of one-off fee and then a recurring element as well. And finally, like I've just added up here, you've got in-person mastermind events, seminars, 1-day workshops, boot camps, on and on. So, for example, I run my Dubai boardroom. If you don't know what that is, so every 6 months, for 3 days here in Dubai, I allow 15 people to come over. I get a conference room. We spend the weekend together, 3 days of learning, helping each other, seeing what's working in different industries and businesses, taking things for ourselves out of that. I usually fly in guests from around the world as well. I do a yacht party. We do a dinner every evening. And that is £15,000 per person for 15 people. Okay, so I do that every 6 months. And I've just recently launched the Beginner's Boardroom as well. It's actually $2,000 per person for a 1-day workshop. So that's the reason why I put this in here. So that's my boardroom, my Beginner's Boardroom. Okay, and it's basically the same as this, but 1 day instead of 3, and then a yacht party the next day for 4 hours to kind of round out the 2 days. So 1 day workshop, and then a yacht the following day for 4 hours. That's it. $2,000 per person for the 1 day. So I really hope that this helps, guys, and adds some value. And hopefully you can use the framework that I gave you, all about the 1 year value, get the average, 5 to 15% of that is a fair thing to charge. You can also think about positioning what you're selling to the right person, right? So again, start to think about of all the people you can sell to, who would be best to sell to? Really, really important, guys. So you've got framework number 1, the average. Framework number 2, who's the best person to sell it to? Who are the best people to sell it to? Where can you position it? And then framework number 3, okay, when you've understood the pricing side of things, then it's more, what are you going to deliver? How are you going to convey the result to them? How are you going to help them get a result? And again, that in itself is going to influence your price. So I really hope that that helps, guys. Any questions, please ask me on one of our next coaching sessions. And I'll speak to you all again soon.